Tucker,
Buck
thanks so much.
Sexton is a former CIA analyst. He worked with the NYPD's Intel division. He joins us tonight. So, you've worked in this world, Buck. You have a better sense of this. Does this apply across all government agencies? If I'm a rifleman in the Marine Corps, do I get to keep my rifle at the end? Or if I work in artillery, do I get to keep my howitzer when I leave? Is this kind of the way it works?
There's specific law with regard to clearances, and there's also customs, Tucker. And when you're talking about former agency heads, they tend to keep them in a way that run-of-the-mill employees like me don't. And they also have, as a courtesy, they'd say, the ability to go back in and still have real-time access to classified information if, in fact, they were called in for that. That's the justification for this. But I feel like this whole debate just highlights a much bigger problem, a much more nefarious issue, and that is we have all these people lecturing us about institutions being undermined, and look what's happened to us, and the hacking of our democracy, and this can't be allowed to happen. We have the former intel chiefs of the biggest agencies of the United States government, the most sophisticated intelligence apparatus on the planet, who are actively trying to undermine now the sitting president of the United States. And they weren't the intel chief 10 or 20 years ago. They were the most recent one. What that means is that every time you've got Clapper or Brennan or others who are going on air talking about, for example, the Russia collusion case, there is at least some perception. And by the way, I think some of them have tried to enhance this with what they've said. They've danced around this, that they're drawing upon their classified knowledge to make some of these assumptions, right? They have extra gravitas. They should be paid attention to more because they were the most recent NSA or CIA director. That is insidious. I mean, this is deeply destructive to the faith that any future president could have in the previous administration's appointees at that level. And that's something I think does not get talked about enough at all here.
No, I think it's a very wise point. And remind us again the point of having all these various alphabet agencies, all the intel apparatus exists only to serve the executive and to help him or her make wise foreign policy decisions, correct? Is there some other reason to have a CIA?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of agencies, 17 now, I think, technically in the intel community, though someone's probably going to correct me on that one, because it's actually grown since I was in it, so that will tell you something. It wasn't that long ago. But they exist. They exist to give for national security purposes. They would tell you what all the different specific missions are. But yes, they're executive branch agencies, and that then brings us to they should be serving the executive branch. And the same way that liberals, Tucker, don't really accept that President Trump is the president and therefore could fire Comey for no reason or any reason. If he wants to revoke clearances under his Article 2 authority, he can do that. So all of this freak out you're seeing from people is a form of Trump derangement syndrome on display for an issue that, by the way, most of these journalists have no idea what they're talking about. They've never held a clearance. They don't know what goes into this, and they don't know why anyone has one anyway.
Also, they're dumb. I mean, if Trump's an authoritarian, he's a pretty inefficient one. I mean, if Brennan and Clapper still have clearances a year and a half in, it's not much of a police state, I would say. Buck Sexton, great to see you.
Good to see you, Tucker. Thanks.